generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we are covering the latest episode of The Bad Batch once again. Unfortunately, well, fortunately for him, but unfortunately for us, Austin is on vacation, so it's just Sarah and I for probably the next couple episodes. So we are here to talk about episode 12, I believe is the number, and it is called Juggernaut. And so I thought, it sounds pretty interesting. What do we got going for us? We've, kind of had that cliffhanger in a way of like, we don't really know what's going to happen next. So it was quite the episode for us. So Sarah's going to cover it. So what happened this week?
Yeah, I'm curious as to what your opinion is on who or what the Juggernaut is in this episode, because just hearing the title, I immediately thought Wrecker. But I don't know that we really got him being a juggernaut in this episode. But I have an idea on what they might have been trying to use that term for. So if we get to a point where you think that's what it was about, you let me know. But our episode starts out with Omega, kind of naturally, right? Because that's where we left off with. So she's arriving on Tantus. She gets handed over to Dr. Hemlock, who has Emery start testing on her like immediately. She, of course, is very surprised to be seeing Omega, and it's really kind of torn on like wanting to continue her career, but we saw in previous episodes she's not really thrilled about testing kids, and she almost kind of has a soft spot for Omega, but not enough to bring her away from doing her actual job. So she proceeds with, you got to do what you got to do. So that's what's going on with Omega. And we don't really see her a whole lot for, I'm going to say, the main chunk of the episode. We'll touch back on her a little bit later, though. So we find out from Crosshair that he might know where Tantus is. And he didn't really want to say anything before, I guess, because he really didn't want to go back there. But he has an idea of somebody who might be able to tell them where it is. And that's Admiral Rampart. So Admiral Rampart, kind of, it's been a while since we've heard this name. I know Jeremy and I had to look it up. Would you like to cover kind of a quick recap of who that is?
Yeah, so Rampart, he was one of the shisty Imperial officer people. I remember, I think it was the second season is when he was starting to really try to climb the ranks, but do it completely unethically. There was at one point where I think it was the end of season 1 is when they destroyed the city of on Camino. They got rid of the cloning facilities. And then season 2, Rampart's part of that season was basically him trying to cover up what he did, because I guess technically he wasn't supposed to blow up the facility or whatever. There was something, I don't remember exactly. There was something that he did that he wasn't supposed to, and he tried to cover it up with a different story. And then it came out, somebody was basically a whistleblower of saying, hey, he actually did something he wasn't supposed to, and then he got reprimanded for it. He was sent off, as we see in this episode, he was sent off to go basically do community service somewhere else.
Yeah, so the other part of why Crosshair didn't really want to proceed this route is that we don't really know if we can trust him, but at this point we don't have any other choice, so we're gonna go for it. We're gonna try.
Well, not only the thing with Camino, he also, killed clones. just to keep them quiet. We had the episode in the season 2 where there was a clone that came up to him and was like, "Hey, are we supposed to be reporting this way when, it didn't go down the way it was supposed to?" I'm pretty sure that was in reference to Camino, and when they were basically right next to a cliff and Rampart, shot him in the head and he fell off the cliff. So why would a clone like Crosshair want to trust him?
I mean, he doesn't really trust anybody anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, that would definitely make it worse. So as they're talking about this is when we see Fee arrive on Pabu. There's still an Imperial presence here, but most of the troops have left. But the area is still kind of on lockdown a little bit. They don't have any, their ship was destroyed, all the boats were destroyed, so they don't really have a way off the island until Fee happens to arrive. And I guess she was able to get in undetected into that little cave area that she parks in. I guess everybody just knows about this cave, but the Empire.
On Pabu?
Yeah,
Well, the Shadow guy did.
this is true, but for some reason, nobody gets detected.
I don't know. I think Pabu is kind of like a low key place. Like they don't really have sensors maybe that tracks these because when the Empire came in the previous episode, they didn't really know until they were like, "Holy crap, there's a Star Destroyer up there." There wasn't, "Oh, we have incoming ships."
That's
So
true.
I kind of wonder if that's their situation. They believe in world peace, so they kind of believe that everybody else believes in it. So why would you need so many security measures?
I guess I was more mentioning how the Empire didn't notice she was coming because there is still a little bit of a presence there, but
Oh, I
um,
see what you're saying.
I think she's got some sort of way of doing trick landings or coming in with. We see this a little bit later in the episode. A special way of landing that's very dangerous by shutting down everything, but then you don't have anything to be detected by, right? Um, so kind of where that comes into play is they it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but they convince her to like, hey, you need to get us off this island. You need to take us to Erebus. That's where the labor camp is, where Rampart's supposed to be. So she takes them and she does that kind of special landing that I was just talking about so that she can get in there without being detected, because otherwise I'm sure they would shoot her ship down right away. I don't know how they knew that Rampart was on this shuttle tank. Did you catch how they knew he was on there?
No, I don't remember.
Somehow they knew that he was on this shuttle tank that's going from like one part of the labor area to another in this little city town, whatever you want to call it, part of the labor camp. And so they find their way on there. They think of a way to kind of create a distraction is let's just let all the rest of the prisoners on here go, and the Empire can, hunt them down and hopefully not pay so much attention to us, right? So they're talking to Rampart and uh they want to know where Tantus is, right? And he, of course, wants to know what's in it for me. Like, why would I just give you that information? Clearly you value it, so what are you gonna do for me? Um, and he bargains with them that you need to set me free and get me off this island, and then I will tell you. So we go through a little bit of a mission of getting the tank to an area where Fee is able to pick them up. Part of this, I think, is where the Juggernaut plays in. So if you look at Jeremy's background, or at least what you can see of it, so there's this giant shuttle tank and it's going down a bridge. The Empire sees them coming because it's their own tank, and so it's picking up speed. It's doing things that are abnormal. It's not on course. And so they're trying to blockade it, right? So I think this is where the Juggernaut part comes in. Is that what you were thinking too?
Um, I don't 100% know where the Juggernaut part's going to come in. I feel like, maybe because, it is a big bruteful thing is this tank that they're on, but part of me almost wonders if it's a little more symbolic, like maybe Rampart may end up being part of the Juggernaut piece of it. Like if he ends up being part of the cavalry later, if he rounds up people to, get back at the Empire for tossing him to the side. But I think that's a little more out there of a theory. It could be straightforward and, just be the clones just ripping through everything. I do
Yeah,
like how the sequence here with the tanks, because they're basically using the tank to escape. It kind of turns into like Fast and the Furious in a way because, they're shooting at each other. They're, using other tanks, like fallen tanks, to do some crazy air jumps and stuff. It really made me feel like we were watching some Fast and the Furious.
yeah, there was some good action shots. It was pretty intense trying to figure out how are they going to get out of here. So we've got Crosshair, Hunter, Wrecker, and then Rampart, which Rampart's kind of giving them some trouble. And Crosshair's like, well, I'm not going to kill you yet. So just stuns him so that he's a limp noodle for the rest of the escape.
Which is funny because like he doesn't have a seatbelt on, so like his limp body is just like whipping around all over the tank as they're doing their dip, dives, and dodges.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Fee picks them up just in time before their shuttle tank goes over the edge of a cliff and explodes. Uh, and so once Rampart wakes up from being stunned, of course, like anybody who's bargaining for their freedom, now that they're free, we find out they don't actually have the information that they said they did. It's the same thing that happened with Fennec, where she's like, well, you help me with this job, and then I'll tell you. Okay, so they help him with the job. Well, I don't actually have the information. I just might know a way to get it.
That's going to
So,
be one of my biggest negatives or cons of this season is that that's a little annoying. It makes it feel like that they're only there for a cameo. They just like when we talked about Fennec, we were saying, I forget her name, but the actress, she's also a director. She's very involved in Star Wars. And so it made me wonder, like, is this just Dave being like, oh, we'll get you an episode kind of a thing? Is that the same thing here with Rampart? This is the final season. Do they just want Rampart to be part of the end because he was a significant piece in season two? Like, did he have to be here? And because he had no information, it seems very pointless. Like us as the audience kind of wasted our time.
yeah. Well, one thing that he says to kind of elaborate on that a little bit is he claims that nobody knows the coordinates of Tantus. Like it was designed to be that way on purpose so that it would be hard to find. So he doesn't know the coordinates, but he might know a different way to figure out how to get there. So we don't really know, we don't find out in this episode even how what else comes of this, because this is kind of where we leave off the Bad Batch and we go back to Omega's story. Jeremy, did you want to cover what kind of happens with Omega? Otherwise I can, it's up to you.
Well, essentially, Omega is taken by Hemlock back into the bowels of Project Necromancer, basically. We get the line that everybody online is talking about. So like before we didn't get to watch this episode like the day it came out. We had to wait an extra day. And online everybody was talking about how amazing the line delivery was by Hemlock's character when he basically said to um Omega that this is now her home. And I was thinking it was going to hit a little harder, but maybe I just uh uh I don't know the word. Overhyped it, so to speak, thinking it was gonna because like when I think about some of during the Disney era of Star Wars, when I think of their projects, there are some lines in their shows that have absolutely hit. Like I'm pretty sure my favorite line that Disney has released for Star Wars thus far is from the Kenobi show when Vader said to Kenobi, I am what you made me. And like the delivery of that line and like the emotion that's behind that and the anger was amazing. So I was kind of expecting something along those lines to be coming through with this message he was sending to Omega. I didn't quite feel that. So unfortunately, I'm not part of that group. But I mean, it is striking because now, Omega had been living probably, I don't know how much time has passed, but it seems like at least a couple years that she's been with Clone Force 99, you know, out living in the freedom. And now she sees a bunch of white walls that is supposed to be her home. And she sees a couple other kids there, and so it's probably hard to predict, but we can imagine what's going through her mind, like what's going on. I'm sure she's thinking about Clone Force 99. Are they going to save her? Are they going to be able to come there because her tracker was broke and there was another thing they were trying to do. I don't remember what the other
Crosshair
option.
missed the shot, but
Oh,
she doesn't
yes.
know that.
Yep, Crosshair missed the shot on the ship, so really they may or may not come to her aid. So basically, from what I remember, the episode just wraps up with her now being back there with the other kids.
I almost wish we could have seen what Hunter and Wrecker's reaction was to Crosshair just letting her go. Because I know it wasn't necessarily his decision because she chose to do it. But I feel like especially Hunter and Wrecker, they cared for her so much. They had to have been devastated.
Yeah, which is another critique of the show too, because we talked about a couple weeks ago, there was the cliffhanger where, the two parties are coming together and Omega's like, "Oh my God, Hunter Wrecker!" And then Hunter and Wrecker see Crosshair, and I was like, we better see what happens after this in the next episode, and they just completely skipped it. So like that with your situation here, we just completely skip it. So
Yeah.
what in the world?
What was the result of her blood sample, her blood test?
Don't remember.
That's all right. I
She's
took
O
note.
positive.
Uh, she has a favorable M count replication.
Oh, that's what you mean.
So it's not just a high M count, it's an M count replication rate. So they're wanting to use her blood to be able to replicate the M count in the other kids that she's going to go live with.
And we all know what really she's there for, right? Because if she can replicate the M count, then that very well could be the inner workings of how the Emperor can clone himself. Because his M count is going to be insane as well. And if that can replicate it, great. It makes me wonder, we talk about this every week, where we think things are going. And who knows, they probably won't, but maybe they will. It makes me wonder now, thinking about that, where, her blood can, replicate an exact copy. It makes me wonder if Snoke is going to end up being, maybe it can replicate exactly up until a certain threshold, and maybe Snoke just wasn't quite enough. Like he's not as powerful as the Emperor, but he's powerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if they try to replicate the Emperor, but it doesn't quite do it, so that's how Snoke became a thing. But I don't know, just thoughts.
Yeah. I have no idea where this is going.
Neither do I, but that's exactly almost a concern about the show too, is like in previous shows, we've all thought about there's 3 episodes left. We're still not on Tantus. We still don't know where Tantus is located. So are we going to be able to wrap all this up within an hour?
I'm
Because
more
that's
concerned
basically
with
what
this
it
being
is,
a series finale too. Like that there
right?
is no next season?
Yeah. So it really makes me wonder, because no, there aren't any of the main characters that have died yet. So it makes me wonder if somebody will.
Excuse you. Rest in peace, Tech.
That was last season.
It's still sad, and it's still a main character.
He could still be alive. I'm just saying they could pull a whole 180 with the last episode. It's a Disney thing. It happened with Reva. It can happen with Tech. So I'm just saying. But I I think we're gonna lose at least one, and I think it's gonna be Crosshair.
I could see that.
The other ones, though,
I
I don't really know how that's gonna pan out because it's that situation with Rogue One. We don't really see these people in the future, but are we just gonna say that they do a Last of Us situation where like Ellie is now on a farm and remote? So is that what's gonna happen here? They all end up on a farm.
yeah, I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, we will. So that was our discussion on the latest episode, episode 12. We will be back here next week, the two of us, discussing episode 13. So if you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you are notified when that one drops. Drops a like if you like the video, and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on this week's episode. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.